Welcome back, Knicks fans. We are back this week. We're discussing the New York Knicks. We're talking Knicks with Jersey Dre, and this is Civil. And we're going to recap yesterday's game. Knicks played the Hawks, and boy, that was pretty embarrassing. I mean, the last couple of games that we talked about, we knew there was something going on with this team that we didn't like, and of course, we saw a little more of it this game. Dre, you want to get into it? Tell us what you saw from the game.
Yeah, it was god awful. It was pathetic. Um, and the old saying, a fish goes bad from the head. And that head would be Tibbs.
Yep.
It starts there. And I mean, we actually had, what was it, a 20-point lead at one
I
point?
think it was 23, 22.
23.
Yeah,
Yeah.
24, 23. Yeah.
23-point lead at home. We had a straight meltdown. There was no in-game adjustments. Tibbs is the most predictable coach in the NBA. Everyone knows what he's going to do. So I mean, again, now am I going to blame all of it on Tibbs? No, 75%. But there's a 25% element as well with the players and just the lack of effort. We have on this team right now, we have, what is it, 3 players who are making over $20 million a year. 3 players, over $20 million. And, these are considered, max deals. Not super max, but they're max deals. And I know it's only, 6 games, 7 games, but yeah, when we start playing teams who are, considered playoff bound, this is what we get. This is who we are, unfortunately. Yeah. And I'm not just going over the edge saying it's just one game. No. Outside of the Memphis game, where we looked clearly outmatched then, but we kept it close. We kept it interesting, and we almost stole a game. Mm-hmm. But anybody else who's a 500 record or better, and even in this short sample size, we don't look like we should be on the same court with them. Silva, what do you think?
I agree. We definitely look like totally outmatched. This game, there's just so much going on there from the lack of adjustments, like you said, from the coach. He's very predictable. He does the same thing game in and game out. And it's very different, especially with the substitutions, even with the plays. Every game we start off with the same play. Basically, I think it's that curl play or slash pick and roll, whatever it is. RJ Barrett coming around the curl play. He's rolling to the rim with Mitch, and that's a good play. But sometimes maybe mix it up, do something different, right? Is there another play that you guys are kind of good at you can run? But it's stuff like that. They run the same play like all the time, especially to start the game. Also, the lack of creativity on the offensive end, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a huge issue with this coach. For this team to outperform, the coach just needs to do a lot better. I do think a lot of it also falls on the players. It's just honestly some of these players act like they don't have any heart. Honestly, a lot of it starts with with Julius. He sometimes he acts and looks like he's got heart, but he's like maybe it's not about heart, but he just blunders, just blunder after blunder sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times he's going to turn over the ball in the same spot. And the crazy thing, the coach just keeps letting them get the ball in that same spot. They keep running the same play. The other thing I noticed too was when we were winning, basically, it felt like this was Jalen Brunson's team. He was running the show a lot of those games. But since we've been losing this 3-game losing streak we've been on, it feels like more and more we're leaning more and more on Julius Randle. I mean, he's been trying to make plays for his team, so you kind of have to give him credit for that, trying to make plays. I do like the fact he's finding more players, more of his teammates for like layups and things like that. But I just really feel like, they can't have Julius be the primary playmaker. He needs to move off ball. at least if he's still, they're going to have him here. If we're going to have this guys for the rest of the season, that's just what they have to do. But honestly, the like the one thing I've been thinking about, this team, these two guys here, we talked about it the last game. I don't think they should be together in the same team, because it's just like both of them are shooting. Both of them are very inefficient. They take the bulk of our shots,
Right.
and then like it's crazy. Julius Randle started out playing well, right? Julius Randle now is shooting, I think, 42% on the season. It's, I mean, that's wow, that's kind of like, that's a little disheartening. He started off well, but now he's shooting like 42% in the season. RJ Barrett, I think, is shooting like 41% in the season. So they're
Mm-hmm.
basically shooting the same. And it's not even like the games haven't even like really, it's only 7 games. Because normally sometimes people start hot and then cool down, right? And everybody, the coach like to make excuses. And even other Knicks fans like to make excuses. Oh, defensive team start slow, or RJ starts slow. I mean, like, slow to what? Like, I mean, he started slow last year and still ended up shooting 41%. So it's
Right.
like whatever he did in the second half of the season clearly didn't do much good didn't really do him much good in terms of his total efficiency numbers. So there's just a ton wrong with this team. Just a lack of heart too. Is like it felt like also Jalen Brunson. I was very surprised. It feels like it's not even. It went from looking like he's got this under control. This is his team to like now it's like it's looking more like Julius's team. I'm like, what happened to Jalen
Mm-hmm.
Brunson?
Well, you know what's happening?
Was
He's
that what
getting
do you think?
he's getting exposed as well. And let me
True.
tell you what he's getting exposed to:
Yeah.
losing. That's what's happening. He's come from winning programs, from Villanova to Dallas. He hasn't been on a team where he's had to truly lead this team.
Yeah.
And and that's what we need. We need a point guard who's going to show leadership. I still think he's a good point guard. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but I think he's in a culture shock right now, and he's seeing what it looks like. You know how you'll get scrutinized in New York. This isn't Dallas.
Yep.
This isn't Villanova.
You can't
This is the
hide.
bright lights. This is Broadway.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're gonna see. I'm hoping that he doesn't crack to this pressure, but his I don't think his body language or his demeanor changes much.
Mm-hmm.
So okay. I'm gonna pause on Jalen Brunson just yet because it's still early. It's still a sample size, small sample size. You know, let's I will pause on him. Holding his feet to the fire to the extreme as I would typically do, just for a little bit. But the person I'm not going to take it easy on is Randall. How many turnovers was it, Civil, this past game?
Was it? I think he had 4. Let me see. Let's check turnovers. 4 turnovers for Julius. 4 turnovers, 2 assists, 6 rebounds.
And how many times did you think, just off the eye, a guesstimation, how many times was he bringing the ball
Ugh, a lot. It felt more than he
up?
needed. I felt like he was bringing the ball up. It was like they were taking turns, or even stretches. He'll bring the ball up for long stretches. And so that was like very disappointing to see as well. It's like they're going right back to the same thing they were doing last year. This is like last year's team. Like that was the concern that I had in the preseason. Even with Jalen Brunson, I'm like, damn, this is the same offense just sprinkled in with a lot of Jalen Brunson. I'm like, what's gonna happen? And of course they're falling back into old habits. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so I guess it's not. I guess I'm not too surprised to see them fall back into old habits. And it's just they play. The crazy thing is like you look at the scoreboard, the stats. I mean, they held them to 41% shooting, but I think the problem was the turnovers was an issue for them, for the Knicks, and then I think not being able to defend the 3-point shot either, the 3-point line. So those were kind of like a problem for the Knicks. But it was just yeah, it was like the turnover. We had like I think 16 turnovers, I think, and
Wow.
and the Hawks had 7, right? And that was basically the difference: turnovers and 3-point shooting, right? And the Knicks, we shot 41% from the field. The Hawks shot 41% from the field, so it was exactly the same. And yeah, those are pretty much the reason why we lost.
Well, and you know what? And so Julius had 4 turnovers. Jalen Brunson had 3. So there's
Yeah,
7 right there, your turnovers.
correct.
And Jalen Brunson's turnovers were like just atrocious.
Yeah,
I think one, the guy just, I mean, Murray ate his lunch.
yeah, he did.
Oh my God.
Looked like, yeah, Jalen Brunson got scared. It seemed like was afraid to
Yeah.
bring up the ball.
He
It
he
was
can't,
crazy. You stopped bringing
that
up the ball.
guy,
How the hell do you do that? You're the point guard.
and he's, Murray, he is so underrated. Like I think because he sat there um, with the Spurs, so he didn't get a lot of exposure there. He was on a losing team, putting up good numbers on a losing team, and he came. He was cooking. You know,
Yeah,
he was cooking. He used all olive oil he could find. He was cooking, and at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, every time we lose, you know what we're going to be thinking about? Donovan Mitchell in the back of our head. Every loss,
yep,
why we didn't pull that trigger, why we didn't get it done. And we're going to look at the front office. We're going to look at, I mean, okay, I gotta stop. I gotta stop figuring out beating up this whole spider thing. I gotta, but it just shows we don't have the talent.
yeah,
We don't have a true superstar player. We don't have a player we could build around. And until the Knicks get that, this is what you're gonna. This is it. We don't have a franchise player. The Hawks do. The Hawks have a nice little core complementary players.
yep,
You know, and right now, now Jalen Brunson, I would say on most night could go and get you buckets. I really do. I feel like you're not going to be on every night. We know that, right? It's 82 games. You're not going to be 100% every night, right? You're going to have off nights. And
mhm,
unfortunately, when you don't play good defense, you get exposed even more. So you're having an off night on offense and you're getting torched on the other end on defense.
mhm.
What do you have? You know? And
Yeah, very
so,
much. Yep.
yeah, and that's where we're at. I mean, I was very, I felt like when we started going up, I think the offensive team, I'm sorry, the first team came in and they went up by, I think it was about 8 points. Second team came in, the lead ballooned up into in the 20 range.
Yep.
And it's like, so what happened? You can't, if you got your foot on the pedal, you can't let it up. And it doesn't matter, the egos on the team. It's about winning. And it's about, matchups. And this is why Tibbs is one of the worst coaches in the playoffs because there's no adjustments.
Yeah.
And he'll just keep saying, well, we'll watch the film. We'll watch the film and see what happened. Keep watching the film. We've heard that story before. We heard it from Fizdale before. you know and so here we are, and it's very disappointing, and I know, and so I'm going to get off my soapbox, but it's just so disappointing. And at some point in this season, we got to start holding people responsible. We have to, and I feel like you know we have to figure out a way to be able to put in Deuce McBride. We got to figure out a way to put in the Wall of Jericho.
Mhm. Even
You
honestly,
know,
maybe Quentin Grimes, trying to find a way to get him in. Honestly, they got to try to do something. At least I want to see what he has because a lot of people are really high on him. I want to see because obviously, like I've said, looking at last year's stats and what he did, I just don't think his total production, if you include the offense and the defense, combined, like, Fournier is ahead of him. Like Fournier won his matchups last year, and Grimes didn't. Cam Reddish was basically net zero, was like basically tied. So he didn't really. Cam Reddish didn't lose his matchups last year, although it was a very small sample size. But Grimes really lost his matchup. So, but I'm really curious to see what he does this year, and I do want to see, if he does help, what he can do. But yeah, you're right. We need to find a way to get some of these guys in, see what they have. But I'm sorry, keep going.
No, no, you're right. No, no, you're absolutely right. And I, kind of, if you look across the river to the Nets, what
Hmm.
did they do? They fired the coach.
Yeah.
They fired Steve Nash. You know, and hey, guess what? Steve Nash was in over his head. You
Yeah.
can't put a rookie coach. And I'm not switching gears because watch where I'm going with this, Sybil. I'm bringing it back in. I'm bringing it
Mhm.
back in. You can't put a rookie coach with a head case like Kyrie,
Yep.
and a sensitive superstar player like Kevin Durant. You
Yep.
put him in a system where he just, they already told you we don't need a coach.
Yeah.
he was set up to fail. But however, I think he would be a hell of a player development coach. So if he still wants to keep his, skyline apartment in Manhattan and want to
Mhm.
cross a little bit over
Not a
and
bad idea.
come on. We
Yep.
got we got room. we
Not a
we can
bad
take
idea.
RJ's godfather over there and you know, and I think he would do well. 'Cause now you got an offensive basketball mind. He sees the court differently. And so I wouldn't be opposed to that. What's your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I would not be opposed to it either. I think, I'm sorry, if you wanted to come to the Knicks to work as a player development as an assistant, I would love that. I think it'd be great for RJ and a lot of the guards that we have, to give them some insight. Obviously, the Kyrie and those guys, they, they felt like they didn't want to coach, but we can definitely use that kind of coach, at least as a player development coach. I agree with you 100%. I think it'd be great for our guards to have someone like that on staff. But we'll see what happens. Probably the only way that happens is if they get rid of Tibbs. That's the only way I see it. Just
Do you feel that Tibbs is on the hot seat?
I do think he's in a hot seat this year. If they come in, if they don't make the playoffs this year, I do think the front office is going to basically move on and make change. If they don't make the playoffs this year, because like you said, we have like guys on this squad with max contracts, right? And so if they don't make a change this year, then the front office, I'm sure Dolan's going to be looking at the front office. What are you guys doing? Honestly, it may not even matter whether they make a change or not this year, because the problem is this is the third season, and they're going to have, especially if they have two losing seasons in a row, oof, all bets are off. I don't know what Dolan does at that point. Dolan, especially in MSG, Dolan listens to fans. If the faithful starts getting restless, especially towards the middle and end of the season, and start like talk about they don't want to, they want to stop coming to the games, and they really start getting loud. You know how Knicks fans get. If that happens, I don't think getting rid of Thibodeau mid-season, it may not work. The only way it works is if they bring in a coach and that coach basically does a total turnaround and takes the team to the playoffs. That's the
Mm,
only reason the front office basically they can save their high. I think the risk they took last year was because they had a good first year, bad second year. Now, if they have a bad third year,
okay.
then they try to get rid of the coach on the third year. Then you're basically saying you got to give them like another hire, which Dolan might do. I know that's why how the front office is trying to do it. They're trying to be patient, right? With the first, they want to be patient with their first coach because they're hoping like they get that second coach because most organizations give you a second coach. However, if Knicks fans are pissed off and like this is nonsense, and Dolan, didn't he clean house with the Rangers like a couple of years ago and didn't even have a bad season? It was like they were
Yes, he
just
did.
sort of a mediocre team, and he
Yes, he
just
did.
cleaned house and they did much better the next year. And so I think that's definitely a possibility. And you know, I think Tibbs, just kind of want to go over. I want to look at these stats real quick, right? The matchups. So these are basically this is the point differential. So the players are in the rows, and this column is point differential. So how many points did you outscore your opponents by? And then this is the field goal differential. Were you more efficient than your opponent? And so RJ Barrett, he won his matchup by 1 point, and plus he was 7 percentage point more efficient. Julius
Okay.
Randle was 24% less efficient than his matchup and then lost his matchup by 2 points. So Julius Randle was definitely a problem for us, right?
Okay.
As a player. Next person is Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson barely played, only like 18 minutes. But Mitchell Robinson, the thing with Mitchell Robinson, it's like, I mean, obviously he's like an excellent defender. Now, this is where I think people sometimes get it twisted. Although he fouls a lot, and he's been having some issues this year. Look at Mitchell Robinson, right? His matchups versus Isaiah Hartenstein. Isaiah Hartenstein, basically, people were just running right to the rim, like floater after floater, layup after layup. I mean, he had a couple of nice blocks, but he's not a Mitchell Robinson. People like, and that's the difference between these two players. It's just like it's totally different how they control the paint. Mitchell Robinson just has it on lock. Hartenstein, he'll give you a few good plays here and there, and he'll give you some buckets. But against like the Hawks, a team like the Hawks, they're going to rip him apart. And then also
Right.
he's less efficient than his opponent. And so that was the biggest thing. Because if you notice, remember kind of like the game really got out of hand when Mitchell Robinson got into foul trouble, like in that third quarter. It's like the bottom just straight fell out when the coach took him out. And that's the other thing I don't understand about the coach. You have the depth that you have at the center position. Just let Mitchell Robinson rock out. This is not the first game where it happened where when he took Mitchell Robinson out, the bottom fell out. It's happened
Mm-hmm.
a couple of times before this season. So I just don't understand why he keeps like taking him out. If you got that depth and you're not going to go back to him anyway, because the problem is he'll pull Mitchell Robinson and then doesn't put him back in. And Mitchell Robinson will finish with like 4 fouls, right? Because he never really got back in the game. And so it's like, I mean, the coach is just like, he's confused, and he's trying to do the analytics thing, but I think he gets confused with analytics. I don't think he understands it well enough. He's not making the right connections. And that's some of the big problems that he has, like stuff like this, right? It's like he'll overplay Hartenstein because Mitchell Robinson is in foul trouble, and because Hartenstein gives you a couple of buckets or more difficult buckets than Mitchell Robinson can, like the floater and stuff like that, or a 3 point shot, then he thinks, oh man, like he's playing better than Mitch. But then you go back and look at these stats, and this is basically the reason why we lost the game. Mitchell
Mm-hmm.
Robinson was not in the lineup, and Hartenstein was, and so and there it is right there. Obviously, on the offensive end with the turnovers and our bad offensive play, most of it was just Julius Randle too, and not enough Jalen Brunson. But
Wow.
looking at it, breaking it down player by player, actually with a lot of these stats, you can actually point to whose fault it is sometimes, especially because you can look at the matchups, and so it's really unfortunate. But the coach he just gets very confused a lot of times. I'm trying to think what else. We talked about like how he basically the rotate, like basically how he changes who's guarding who.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think it really bit us that much this game, but that was because mostly Mitchell Robinson was really doing well patrolling the paint. I got to go back and see this game again, but I felt like the two of the games we lost this year, when he basically against Cleveland and also against the Bucks, two of the three games we lost, he tries to get slick and he thinks it's smart where he'll, like for example, remember the Bucks game, he basically, because Randall was playing such atrocious defense, wasn't even making an effort. So he decides to basically have Julius Randle playing Lopez, and then Mitch play Giannis. Yes, Giannis did a better job. Yes, Mitch did a better job guarding Giannis, but it created all sorts of nightmares in the post because then Mitchell Robinson was out there in the perimeter, couldn't get rebounds because he's in the perimeter, right? And then and then you got to leave it up to Julius to get rebounds. Julius has stopped boxing out. He's not boxing out anymore, really. Um, when it's him and Hartenstein on the floor, forget it. We're not getting rebounds. And then the other thing, he just stopped playing defense after like the second game. It's like I guess he felt like he had those couple of good games, and then he was like, "Uh oh, I'm off to the races. I don't have to play defense anymore. I'm carrying the team on offense." And it's like it's just been trash. It's like it's been crazy. But
Mhm.
yeah, I just want to kind of point out these stats because it's just it's just I don't think Thibodeau really sees this stuff the way he should, and that's I think that's part of the big problem with this with him as a coach and with the organization. That and he just he does the same thing over and over every day and never changes. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, we had some opportunities to kind of get back into this game. I was a little disappointed with Obi,
Yeah.
especially he had two wide open three pointers. He had really good looks at the basket,
Yeah.
missed, and my favorite blunder of him when he went down by 14 points and he's trying to do a back alley oop dunk and missed.
Yeah.
It's like you want to root for the guy, right? You want to see him excel.
Hmm.
He's still a young kid, and I get it. I know that's frustrating, especially probably for Tibbs, and but I feel like he's. I think he should go work out with Akeem Olajuwon.
I
You know,
agree. That's a very good idea.
you know. Do you remember when Amari Stoudemire went and worked out with him? His game changed drastically.
Yeah.
And because right now, I believe that he can do more than be, a flashy dunker, outrunning folks and just shooting the 3-point shot. You know, he's got to do more. He's got to be able to create his own offense.
Hmm.
Um, like you've said before, many of these podcasts that they can never move on from Julius until Obi steps up. They have to feel secure in what they have in Obi before they'd be willing to move Julius.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree with you with that. Like with Obi is like there's a few things I am a little disappointed because obviously what I saw towards the end of the season, not just like the last two, 3 games, it was really more like I want to say the last 10 to 15 games of the season. What I saw from him, he was very comfortable, played, although a lot of stuff was within the flow of the offense, and which was really good. But when a team is struggling, honestly, like I said before, I would like to see him like especially with the second unit. I would like to see him just go get a bucket to show that he can actually carry at least the second team, right? And maybe I'm thinking about it the wrong way because he likes to play in the flow of the offense, and you do want players like that. But when a team is struggling, if you want to take over for Julius, yeah, I think he needs to be able to exactly what you said. He needs to be able to get a bucket, at least try to carry the second team, go make a play, either get a bucket or maybe make a play for someone else. He's a decent passer. He needs to get comfortable, and maybe some of it is also repetition, right? Like getting more play time. I think that's a big part of it. And the other,
yeah,
I do think like some of it too is Tom Thibodeau. Like you said, they don't really. It's not like they run sets or any plays for him really. Uh,
right.
you know, and so, but he needs to like. But the thing with Tom Thibodeau that you notice if you sort of like, not literally, but you kind of give them the middle finger and just, and scrap the play and then do your own thing and you actually score and get it done. Tom Thibodeau is not going to have an issue with that, but he needs to be able to like, he needs to have the confidence to be able to do that. And so, yeah, I agree with you. He's going to have to take this from Julius. I do think, even this game he actually played, although he played like much less minutes than Julius did. Let me see. He played 18 minutes, which actually that's not bad. He played 18 minutes. Julius played 29 minutes. And he actually played better than Julius, which is crazy. Because Julius played like over 10 more minutes than he did. Um, but that's the stuff you get from Julius because of the inefficiency and all the turnovers. It's amazing. I don't know how you get I don't know how you get outplayed by Obi in this game, and you get way more minutes. But
Do you have some assist numbers?
uh, I think we do. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Because I'm curious. And the reason I asked, I'm curious
Mhm.
to just see, how are we distributing the ball around? Who? I thought Cam had made a couple of good passes. And Cam, what worries me sometimes with Cam is that because he gets limited amount of playing time. He's getting some now, but I don't feel he plays within the offense most times, and
Yeah.
I feel he forces things. But when it works, right?
Yeah.
And but what's going to happen once Grimes comes back? When Grimes is back fully in the rotation, who's the odd man out?
I think if Grimes ever comes back in the rotation, it might be Cam. He might be the odd man out. That's the unless it's Derrick Rose because Derrick Rose like the reason why Derrick Rose is only playing like 12 minutes a game and the reason why they made a big deal about his health, him dropping weight. They need Derrick Rose for the chance, in case they make the playoffs or when they need to make if they got to make a final push to make the playoffs. That's why, I feel like they're playing Derrick Rose the amount of minutes they're playing, and I'm pretty sure it's not even the coach's idea. This is probably the front office telling them like, "Yo, you can't run Derrick minutes more than 15 minutes a game," which is smart. This game, Derrick Rose actually played 17 minutes, but the previous games he's been playing more like 12 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes, which I like for him. But he's the other person they might actually. Nah, I don't think they bench because that might upset him. So no, I don't think they bench Derrick Rose. And then also they need Derrick Rose to actually stabilize the second unit. It's when IQ wows out. So I'm wrong about that. So it might be Cam who's the odd man out if Grimes
Did we
goes.
lose you there? So, oh yeah,
I'm sorry, say that again.
yeah. I think you were going out. We couldn't hear you.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. No, I was just saying I think it's gonna be I was thinking maybe Derrick Rose, they might sit him a little bit, but I don't think that's gonna happen because that might upset him because I think he wants to play. So I think it's probably gonna be more. I think if anyone is the odd man out, it might be Cam.
Oh,
Uh
it's definitely.
yeah,
Oh, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
But
And I, I think you should give him some type of minutes. You got to see who's hot, right?
yeah,
Because you just never know. You
yeah.
don't know who's tonight's their night. Whatever that matchup is, you just don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm a believer in, hey, you know what? We may give you maybe limited minutes. You may get maybe 3-4 minutes. Hey,
Mhm.
it's limited. Go out there. Let's see what you're gonna do in that 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And hey, if he goes out there, he knocks a couple 3-pointers down, we're gonna extend your minutes. And so, but I just think you just can't have a talent. You can't sit that talent and nobody else is giving you anything. Because at the end of the day, Cam can find offense, and he plays, relatively decent defense. He has long arms. He knows how to get into, passing lanes.
Mhm.
And that's his game. Cam knows his game.
Yeah.
So Fournier, I just think he is that he is outside of Julius, which I know it's going to take to get rid of him. It's going to you have to move mountains. But the more realistic person to get rid of is Fournier, and I
Yeah.
understand why you have to showcase him. If you bury him on the bench and he's making 17, $18 million a year,
Mhm.
you know, who's going to give up anything decent for him?
I agree.
So
And that's the other thing where like the team is doing a bad job not looking for him really because he was pressing this game because he wasn't getting enough touches early, and so he was just like when he got the ball, he was like pressing. And look, it's his fault too. You can't just you got to be patient, right? But he was pressing his game because they just weren't looking for him. If they want to be able to trade him, you got to run plays for him. If he's going to be out there in the offense, run plays for the dude because that's the reason why you have him out there. So for goodness sakes, can you run some plays for him? Is like if you're not running plays for him, then what's the reason of having him out there? And so that's kind of like with me, that's my take on for. I know he's a terrible defender, but it's like I just don't understand what the coach is doing. This coach just has no control over the team, it feels like, and what they're doing. I mean, he seems like he's so hard on everyone, but he's clearly not hard on veterans and the starters. He just lets them do whatever they want to do. It's like, if you want to trade Fournier, and I know they want to trade Fournier for a real 3-and-D player, I mean, you can't do stuff like this, and they've been doing it like the whole season. They're just not getting them involved enough. They're not running plays for him and looking for him and trying to get him open shots. So at least he looks good. So if you want to trade him, you'll have something to trade. And so I think that's the biggest problem with Fournier. Um, and so I think it's just more the coach and the team not looking for him. I think that's what's the issue with his offense. He
Mm.
has been always a little on the streaky side anyway, but I just feel like it's this team that's his problem. They're not looking for him. And with we already talked about Obi. What about IQ? What did you think about his game yesterday?
I thought, to be honest, I thought he played his game. Now, was he shooting lights out? No, but
Mhm.
God, he hustled. God, he was all over the court. I mean, how many rebounds did he get yesterday? Was it 16?
16 rebounds.
16 rebounds. Wow.
Yeah,
And it's not that he can jump. He's just in the right position.
yeah.
And I really feel like rebounding uh is instinct, right? It's not necessarily, oh, I'm boxing you out and I'm just getting the rebound.
Hmm.
In some matchups it is that way, right?
Hmm.
But for the most part, like, one of the best rebounders I've ever seen was Dennis Rodman,
Yeah.
right? I think there was one season he averaged, what was it, 18, 20 rebounds a game.
Oh
That's
yeah.
insane, right?
He was unbelievable.
Yeah. And all it was effort. It
Hmm.
wasn't that he could jump out the gym. It was just effort.
Yeah.
He
That's
wanted to
good
get
for the
he
ball.
wanted to get to the ball,
Hmm.
and it was instinct. And
Yeah.
I feel like IQ was figuring out his niche. Like, you know what? Hey, I may not get 10 assists, but I can get 10 rebounds. Because he's
Yeah.
like, what, he got 7 rebounds? I think it was like 7 rebounds the other day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's he's on pace to definitely get more rebounds than Obi, right?
Yeah, I was actually gonna say that is like because he's right next to Obi. Obi's right below him on this graphic here, and it's like he's got Obi had 3 rebounds and IQ has 16. And it's like, for goodness sake, IQ's a guard. I know like Obi, they have him just sitting in the wing most of the time, but for goodness sakes, bro, you know.
Yeah, he's like nowhere. And when he does get a rebound, it's like he has to work for it.
Yeah,
And Obi, he doesn't
yeah,
get easy rebounds.
yeah.
It's like he has to truly hustle
I do
to
think
get
part of it
a
is
rebound.
because of they have him on the perimeter a lot.
They
Uh,
do.
yeah, he's
The old
always
Kevin Knox. I call him
yeah,
the Kevin Knox.
corner boy
You
Kev.
know, that's what they did. They did the Kevin Knox. They stuck him in a corner all
Yeah.
game. You
So
know, and you see Julius. Julius doesn't fall for that. You know,
yeah,
Julius won't let him stick him in the corner,
then
and so he's out of position.
yep.
He's playing out of position, and what's happening? He still has that AAU mentality where he's worried, looking over his shoulder, worried about making a mistake. Well, if I do what the coach says, then I'll probably get more playing time. If you ever notice when Julius is like completely out of the game, he's not playing that game, how loose Obi plays.
Hmm.
You know, And
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. And he does way more. He'll shoot the jump shot. He'll start taking people more to the basket because guess what? He's not worried about coming out.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. He does seem to play better when Julius is struggling. But yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, he needs to get into it. He really needs to pick it up this season. I really hope they don't lose Obi, because they can't. I'm positively sure. I'm 100% sure now that there's a stronger possibility Julius is traded over Obi. Uh,
Okay. All right. Now tell me why.
well,
I'm
because him
curious.
and
Yeah.
Julius and Barrett just they don't fit together at all. They're just not a fit. And then you
Okay.
kind of have to ask yourself, who would you want more, right? Who would you take? Julius, is he going to be like right now? It's like he's supposed to be like second or third fiddle, and he's not even playing that. They started out the season where he was off ball more. Now he's dominating the ball, and now we're losing because he's dominating the ball, and the offense thinks, and we keep turning it over. But you can't have both Julius and RG on the same team. They're two because you can't have two ball dominant, inefficient players on the same team. And then with both of them turn over the ball a lot, and Julius is bumbling, stumbling, just basically disaster, walking disaster sometimes. And so one of them has to go because it's just like it's just like it's not you're not going to have a good ball club when you have both of them on the same team, because of
Right.
that. And then maybe hopefully RJ his percentage improves. It seems like like I remember somebody was saying like last year when Julius wasn't in the lineup, RJ's percentage went up, shooting field goal percentage went up, and so I haven't really looked at that to see how drastic or how different it was, if it
Okay.
was significant or if it was just kind of like, uh, but one thing is definitely clear: you can't have both of them on the same team, and it's not even because I want RJ to play better. It's just because you can't have two ball dominant, uh, you know, people that are taking most of your shots, shooting 40%. You can't have them on the same team. One of them has to go, and I
So
think it's
why?
probably going to be
So
RJ
why do you
Julius.
think? So why do you think it's Julius over RJ?
Well, RJ is going to be the easier one to move, right? If you had to move someone, but Julius, if he's older, RJ has like it's the unknown, right? He could be better. Like although RJ is not making layups, I think his from 2 point percentage, he's shooting like 46, 47% from two this year, which is like interesting. Although like I guess he's just making only like those little bunnies or kind of little floaters he gets once in a while, but he can't make layups for some reason. But yeah, is uh so I think with RJ, there's more of a possibility. There's possibilities there, right? The front office can dream of what he can be. But Julius, what is Julius like 27, 28 now? I mean, Julius is who he is, you know?
Yeah, he's 28. Yeah, yeah. He is who he is. He has reached his peak. Absolutely.
Yeah, he is in his prime. Your prime is like 26. Well, actually, no, I think it's 28 to 32, somewhere in that range.
Hmm.
Maybe 20, actually more like 26 to 30, something like that. But yeah, he has hit his prime and he's not going to be better than this. And that's the thing that's going to be disastrous. If we're lucky, we may get like a protected first round pick for Julius. We may actually have to attach a protected first to get rid of him at this rate. But yeah, but that's why I think it's going to be Julius that goes. It's just like there's just more of a possibility with RJ. He could be better, but Julius is too late.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
do. I think it's time to move on from Julius. But it's going to be. I think it's going to be really difficult to move. We're in this conundrum when it comes to Julius,
Mm-hmm.
and what it is. If he plays well and people want him, the Knicks aren't going to trade him, right? So if he plays bad, nobody wants him.
Yeah.
we're kind of stuck, um, you know. And I think he would flourish. I would love to see him in Dallas personally. I would love to package him up, and I think you put Julius on that Dallas Maverick team. I think you got a championship team there because he won't be the first option. He won't be the second option. He'll be exactly what he is on the championship team, the third best player.
I agree. I definitely agree with you on that. He'll be like, I think that's the perfect team for him, especially he's got Luka, somebody to just make plays for him and just hand it to him. But the only thing I don't know if he's gonna have to be on his best behavior because he can't do because Luka gets like really pissed off. He's like I've seen last year, I remember I've seen games where he actually Luka, like he's one of those players that berates his teammates, you know. Honestly, in my opinion, I think that's one of the reasons Jalen Brunson wanted to leave. I don't think Jalen Brunson really liked Luka, you know.
Oh,
Like, of course, publicly they'll say, "I'll talk about how great Luka is," but I've seen like when Luka would make remarks to Jalen Brunson. Oh my goodness, I've seen like the looks on Jalen Brunson's face, like I want to smack the crap out of this dude. Like sometimes he has this I want to smack you look, like just kind of like, and he just kind of has to ignore it, eat it, because of course Luka's he's their golden child over there. But yeah, Julius cannot. Yeah, he's got to play smart basketball if he's over there because Luka, he looks like the kind of person he would just berates his teammates. I don't like those kind of players. I don't like players that berate their teammates, especially in public in front of others. That's not good leadership, in my opinion. But
right.
yeah, but yeah, I do agree that would be a great landing spot for him, and he will add a lot to the Mavs if he actually does what he's supposed to do. Like going back to free agency and the draft, thinking about it now, honestly, um, I was always in the camp like they should have went for Jalen Duren because I felt like you always had to pick the best talent available.
Okay.
Although Jalen Duren is young, very young, and people make the argument centers you can't do much with rookie centers, blah blah blah. And then of course we already had Jericho Sims as well. Uh, I'm looking at it now, like if you think about it, I'm thinking about the fact they didn't get him, and probably a lot of this had to do with them trying. Obviously, I think a lot of it had to do with trying to get Donovan Mitchell, but they should have had a plan B aside from Donovan Mitchell. Obviously there wasn't really any plan B. Um, but man, I tell you what, it's really disappointing. It was really disappointing that like we didn't have a plan B in terms of like getting another player, and it's really more a 3 and D, right? Whether if it's at the 2 or 3, they really need another real 3 and D. And then also it kind of goes back to the whole with when we lost the guy we lost to the Mavs, the 3 and D player, Bullock.
Bullock. Yeah, Reggie
It,
Bullock.
I just couldn't believe they lost Bullock. Like I remember when that actually happened, I was actually a little pissed because this front office, they think they're too smart. They think they're smart, but they actually look dumb with a lot of stuff that they do. You didn't want to guarantee the third year on a $33 million deal. Like, what are you talking about? You know, you didn't want to guarantee a third year on a $33 million. That's just unbelievable. Honestly, I thought the one player they would have gotten rid of or they would have let walk was like Alec Burks, and then keep because if you think of both players, the most important, in my opinion, the most important player was Bullocks because you need a 3 and D player. I know Alec Burks had a lot of great games for us where he single-handedly won. It seemed like he single-handedly won games. But if you kind of take a step back and look at the data, it's just like Bullock was just the more important player. And that team that when we made the last time we made the playoffs, um, if you look at it statistically, like I think the PIEs, I think it was so the PIEs, I think it was like Mitch, although Mitch only played like I think he only played like 30 something games that year, but Mitch had the highest, and then you had like I think the second was Derrick Rose, maybe I think it was Derrick
Okay.
Rose, and then Obi, which is crazy. But the Obi, the reason why his PIE has always been so high is the efficiency. Um,
Mm.
and then after Obi was Bullocks, you know, and so but it's and Burks was kind of down there, you know, in terms of so you actually got more in production and efficiency from Bullocks than you did from Burks, and so to me that was crazy that they let him go. But it's just this front office. I feel like um, they going for. I guess this was their home run that they were going for, and they struck out. You got to have a backup plan, and you can't be doing stuff like you're going for Donovan Mitchell, miss it, and then you don't pick up like Jalen Duren. I think he's going to be a very good center. He does give you more of a like if you want a little change of pace, he's similar to Mitch, but there's
Okay.
more there in terms of like comfortable with the hook shots. You know,
Mm.
there's a little more offense with Duran than there is with Mitch. Um, I was hoping Mitch would be a lot more comfortable, but Duran is that guy. If you want that versatility, he can't shoot. Obviously, he's not like a Hartenstein, but I just felt like the way the front office has been handling a lot of this stuff, you kind of see how it's going now. Yeah, it's like hindsight is 2020, but I mean, the results speak for itself. It's only game 7, but we can clearly see the trend line and we can see what's going on. And it's pretty much a lot of the same stuff from last year. And then the only good thing they did obviously was bringing in Jalen Brunson. That was a big deal. I thought that was really good. I still think the team gets about 41, 42 wins, about 42 wins. And like I said, the only way we get to 42 wins because if we get to 42 wins, that means like RJ and Julius, they're still shooting like low 40s, like 41, 42%. And it looks like that, right? And so I think that's what's going to happen if they continue playing like this. But if they improve or they get rid of Julius and like you got to increase your efficiency. If you get rid of Julius and bring in Obi, they're going to win more games. I think the coach will have to. I think it forces the coach to be a little more creative on the offensive end. And if the coach is not creative, Obi creates a lot of he's kind of one of those players that can bend space without the ball because of the way he moves, how hard he cuts. And so the more you play him, you get a lot of that. You get a lot of good things from Obi. But that's just what they got to do. And the front office is screwed up a lot, and they need to find a way to fix this. They didn't have a backup plan. They didn't pick they didn't make a draft pick this year. And so, yeah, that's pretty much. What do you think about the front office's role in this? I know it was really early, but you're starting to see. I feel like they could have. It's great they got Jalen Brunson. That was a big deal, but it feels like they could have done more, especially addressing the 3 and D position.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We only made 2 additions
Mhm.
this whole summer, so there was no big splash outside of Jalen Brunson. Now, granted, that's we can't we can't frown on that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he was definitely a good pickup. I think he is definitely worth the amount of money that we paid for. Um, but again, he does have some deficiencies, and I mean, again, his defense, is atrocious. And so quicker guards are going to blow past him.
Yeah.
Now, if we have someone who's like a 2 guard, we try to put RJ on whoever's that best player, and but at the end of the day, we need a true franchise player who is a 2-way. He can play both sides. We need someone who's elite on offense and elite on defense. We need the game changer. And the front office, you know, um, they had an opportunity. We wouldn't have gotten. We would have gotten a game changer. We would have gotten a player. I mean, Donovan. I keep going back to Donovan Mitchell. I know it's like a broken record, but we had him in our hands, and we let it go. We simply let it go. And so, um, I know it's too early to start talking about draft picks for next year, but I am surely looking. I am definitely looking. One thing I want to reiterate, Sybil, what you mentioned earlier. You mentioned that oh my God, I almost lost my train of thought. You mentioned, I believe, the front office. You said something about the front office. I think you mentioned about missing a key opportunity. Is that correct?
Yeah, was it with Bullocks or was it the draft?
The draft.
Yeah, Jalen. I felt like that high up in the draft. You can't, in my opinion, you should not be trading the picks away. You need to make a pick there. Uh, it's because you're not going to get a better pick by trading that away.
Right.
So
A-
you're just going to get a worse pick in the future.
Absolutely. And the unfortunate part is that we have a coach where we are scared to make draft picks because we don't think he's going to play them.
Yeah.
And right there lets you know that there's something wrong with this pitcher.
Yeah.
There's definitely an issue. And I'm not sure outside of bringing in a more offensive minded coach. We need a fresh set of eyes on this team. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I know exactly what it was. It just hit me. So you mentioned that most ownership allows the front office at least one coach hire, right? It will at least allow you to, go ahead and, be able to fire a coach and hire your guy.
Yeah.
In this situation, they've already had it. Tibbs was their guy. They didn't inherit Tibbs. He was their guy.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Yep.
So, unfortunately, I think they're going to have to go down with the ship
Yeah.
because this is their guy.
Yeah.
So they have to put, all their apples and all their chips up front. And, and they have to bet all on Tibbs.
Yeah.
I don't see how they'll get an opportunity. I mean, I wish they would because I just feel like, it was a new regime and they made some good decisions. They made some bad ones. And I would allow them at least an opportunity to correct the wrong.
Yeah.
This is the regime that gave Randle the extension. After he laid an egg in that playoff game, right there.
They should
Let
have
me
traded
know.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, I will never forgive him for that playoff game. Just like I'll never forgive Charles Smith for that attempt of making that layup, with the 25 pump fakes.
Oh man.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about, Julius Randle. It was an unacceptable playoff series, and he had a great season. But guess what? He couldn't show up when it counted. And why? Switching gears, Derrick Jeter is considered one of the greatest Yankees of all time. It wasn't because he played great during the season. It's because he showed up in the playoffs when it counted. He led by example consistently. I was taught a long time ago that consistency is the hallmark of any professional. And that's what Derek Jeter exemplified. And so that's what we need. We need a true leader. Can you see you think the team's going to rally behind Randle so he can spaz out? So that's where we are. So that was my reply, for you regarding the front office. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was, definitely made a lot of great points. And it's right now just not looking very good. Because it still looks like Julius still commands, this team and this offense. And I think it's because of coach.
Sure.
Coach is a big part of it, and they got to get rid of him. He's not the right kind of leader that they need for this team. And, either that or Jalen needs to step up. Yeah. So what, like, you struggle some games. Right now, he's still like the most efficient player on his
Yeah.
team, especially in the starting lineup. I think he's still shooting over 47, 48%. I think he's shooting like 48% in the season. So he just needs to step up and do the right thing, and just
Right. He has to be
take
impactful.
the reins. Yeah.
Right. He has the numbers, but what I
Mhm.
mean by impactful, that was something that Randall always struggled with. And again, I'm not. This is not a witch hunt on Julius Randle by any means. I know it may sound that way, um, but again, most consider him the best player. So if you consider the best player, I said most. You know, you and I don't consider that, but most. Um, there's an expectation. There's a higher expectation for you. This is New York, and you have to show up. And so you're gonna get your feet held to the fire, plain and simple.
Yeah.
You know, and so and I can go on and on about his lack of IQ. Because he's a hell of a talent. Talent wise, oh, he's a hell of a talent. But basketball IQ is making the right plays at the right time. Where a team is on the run, we can put the ball in your hands and you can make the right play.
Mhm.
You don't always have to be the person that scored, but you got to make the right play to be able to stop the run. Or there's 2 minutes left in the game and, the game is tied, making the right decision, the right play.
Yeah, I mean, it's like down the stretch this year. I mean, he's had a couple of games where he made huge plays, especially with this. I think it was a Charlotte game.
Okay.
But I think he fouled out that game too, though. But he's made a couple of big plays early in the season, down the stretch. But that's all gone away. At the same time, it's weird. He'll make a good play, but then he'll also make like a really bad play, right? It's like I remember the one game where he had a great game, but then towards the end he like fouled. I think it might have been the first game actually against Memphis. Fouls like a player like 2 times in a row, and it's like like right towards the end of the game, and that kind of like helped like basically Memphis pull out the game, and so it's just stuff like that. It's just like just I don't know, just bumbling, just mistakes. Like you said, it's not very good basketball plays. Sometimes he makes, and yeah, I mean they just and they may and this team, the front office again. I think they missed quite a few opportunities. Honestly, they should have traded him last. I don't know what they were waiting for to trade him last year. I know there's like that. There's a trade kicker or something like that. I think there's a penalty the Knicks pay if they trade him without him okay in it. It's something like they will have to pay some percentage, an additional
Oh
percent.
yeah, it's like $9 million extra.
Yeah, and so they should have done it last year because they wouldn't have. They should have done it last year actually because it was for the new contract. The new contract hadn't kicked in yet. That's why they should have traded him last year because that kicker wouldn't have. They wouldn't have to pay that kicker. I don't think. Although I could be wrong, but there were so many options. I mean, like you look at like, I remember for the longest time I've been eyeing Jeremy Grant because even for a while I wanted Julius traded for Jeremy Grant. You put Obi at the 4, Jeremy Grant at the 3. Jeremy Grant looks like a power forward, but he's actually I think he plays very well as a 3. He's a very good 3-and-D player and also gives you versatility. He can put the ball on the floor. And that was one person I've wanted for a couple of years, but he got traded to the Trailblazers, which is very disappointing. And then the other person I remember was Royce O'Neal. It was like and I thought he was a decent average player when he got traded to the Nets, and the Nets gave up first round pick for him. I thought the Nets were crazy. But I hadn't watched enough of him. I knew he was just a decent 3-and-D player, but he's actually pretty good. He could put the ball on the floor, a really good playmaker too. So that was another person this front office missed out on. They should have like moved on from Julius, and they had plenty of opportunity. Honestly, I don't know what they were waiting for. They get too cute sometimes, and they think they're so smart. Like you can't get equal value for everything, especially Julius Randle. Like I've always said before, you didn't draft him, and it didn't cost you any to sign him. It didn't cost you any any picks. you just signed him off free agency. So if you lose him for nothing, like who cares? It's not working out. You signed him essentially for money, right? And if you
Right.
decide to lose him and you don't get a player back, you didn't trade for him. So I just don't understand when people talk about, oh, they don't want to trade Julius Randle at his lowest value. They got so many protected picks. If it costs you one or two protected picks, please send it. Those protected picks is worthless anyway, and we've already proven it's worthless. you know, Nobody wanted it. I mean, definitely Utah didn't want it in these trades, and they got a million of them. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what I have. I didn't want it to be too negative of a show, but I mean, it was a crappy game yesterday. So this team, they got to have it. I hope they all pick it up. I'm still optimistic about the young guys. I'm still optimistic about RJ with him. I just hope maybe they need to just honestly, put the ball in his hand until he start making layups. At this point, I'm kind of getting afraid that I don't want us to waste RJ and to waste Obi, right? These are high draft picks. You got to make sure you got to give them the chance. Put the ball in their hands. I don't care how bad they play. If this is what's going to be happening, you gotta put the ball in these two kids' hands, to see if you can develop them. I mean, because you can't do that. You can do that. It can't always be like, oh, you got to prove yourself. Sometimes you can just put the ball in their hands and repetition and keep going and going. In game experience is basically the best teacher, to tell you the truth, and they could be a lot better. And so I really hope this next team does that. If they do that, I think it might help RJ with his layup problems, and definitely I think Obi is going to play much better and get more comfortable. And both of them got a good chance. So I'm very optimistic about the players. So I don't want to be too down. Julius, like I said, you say he's very talented, but just boneheaded plays, and I agree with you on that. So you want to get the last word before we sign off?
Uh, yeah. What I'm going to say is we got to do better.
Yeah.
From the top down, we got to do better.
agree.
And we play tomorrow. Is that correct?
Yes, Philly.
Oh yeah, they're in turmoil as well. So this should be interesting.
Yeah, that's another show. Like signing
Yeah.
James Harden on the decline. Oh my goodness, that was crazy. But anyway, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But yeah, so maybe we'll have another show like on Sunday, if you got time over the weekend. And thank you
Okay.
guys for tuning in. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel. We basically the raffle we were doing for free Knicks tickets this month. We didn't get enough people signing up. It was only like 2 people signed up. So
Okay.
I'm going to push it out another month. So if you're watching this video, please make sure you like, subscribe, send us an email to enter the raffle. And basically the deadline is going to make it again 11:30. And if we get enough participants, we'll announce the winner in 12-1. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good night.
All right.